The whole of Bangladesh has heaved a collective sigh of relief. Not only did their batters last the full 50 overs, but they put 334 runs on the board. Here, take a look at this batting card. This should make all those fans in Dhaka and Mirpur smile. 334 for 5. Two centurions in Mehidy Hassan Miraz, who opened the innings for the second time in his career, 112 of 119. Miraz Shanto as well, 104 of 105. And because of what they did, it also allowed Shakib Al Hasan to come in low down the order and hit a few lusty blows to score 32 of 18. Joy Bhattacharjya, Dinesh Karthik in the house on a Pata wicket. You expect this to happen?
You have to say they made best use of conditions, winning the toss, taking the option of batting first. Generally, you see in that after the T20 format has been invented, a lot of teams prefer chasing, but they've decided to bat first, a bold move, and they have set their first line in the sand, so to say. 334 is a good total. A lot will depend on how the spinners go and whether Mehidy Hassan Miraz is coming into bowl as well. We'll speak later about that, but for the moment, I thought Bangladesh batters have done themselves really proud.
After a hapless batting show in that last game, they had to do something different, and which is what they did. Mehidy Hassan Miraz, no one expected him to open.
Look, I think they came in with intent. If you see what happened in the first 3 overs, 31 runs scored. Clearly, they said we want to set a big target. They were not just happy to play out the 50 overs. And the person who would be most relieved would be Hathra Singh, because to take a punt like putting up Mehidy Hassan Miraz to go and open the batting and instead not slide everyone down like we thought they would was a big call. But it really came off for them because he delivered that century for them. 2 centurions. Shanto continued with his absolutely fantastic form, and that's meant that they really had a platform which towards the end Mushfiqur could plunder a few runs, Shakib could plunder a few runs. All in all, this is what you call is a classical not T20 ODI batting effort, where you set a platform, then you do it, and towards the end they sort of increase the run rate. If you see towards the end, they finally reached, in the last 10 overs, they got 51, 52 runs. And that's exactly the template that they were looking at doing.
An opportunity like this can sometimes, we will talk about that in just a bit. Take a look at the progression. When those 2 wickets fell, they slowed down just a little bit, steadied the ship, and then from there on just took the game away from Afghanistan. Took the innings away from them.
There's a massive story in there. Number one, we spoke about Afghanistan's death bowling, and there's a reflection of it. 41 to 50, 103 for 3, out of which in the 7 overs bowled by spinners went for 73. The 3 overs are just the fast bowlers bowling those 3 overs, which tells you that they're very reliant on the spinners even at the back end of the innings. The 60 partnership and the 68 runs between overs 21 to 40 tells you a story that they've played the spinners well as well. To be fair to Hashmatullah Shahidi, I think he rotated the bowlers pretty decently, but I think for them, a key man who didn't get going today was Fazal Farooqi. Yeah. Right from up top, the first over went for 14. He was consistently on the back foot. Every time he came on to bowl with a left-hander pitted against him, they picked him off their legs. You could see that here was a bowler when conditions didn't favour him, didn't exactly get going, and that posed a few problems for them. And we are reliant on spinners, and we spoke about that. If the spinners are played with the mindset to play singles, and exactly that's what happened. 60 runs in the first 21 to 30 and 30 to 40. Obviously, the set batters just getting that 68 runs. It gives them a platform to push, and they did it beautifully at the back end of their innings. I
googled the Lahore temperature. It said feels like 41. No help in the air, off the pitch. Fazal Farooqi bowling about 125, 130 is not going to trouble any batsman at this level at least.
I mean, he should have tried something different. You cannot be the lead fast bowler of your country and finish off with 6 overs in a time when Karim Jannat has to finish. Karim Jannat and Gulbudan together normally are expected to bowl 10 overs between them with the 3 spinners bowling. Fazal Farooqi bowling 6 overs at 8.83, that has really hurt them. And of course, the other thing is that normally whatever happens, Rashid Khan gets you a few breakthroughs. Yep. Moment you have breakthroughs, as any form of the cricket game will tell you, DK will tell you, wickets means run rates also slow down. And they just didn't get the wickets in the middle overs to peg everyone down. So what happened is they played out. They didn't have to take too many risks. They played out the spinners at 6, 7, got the occasional boundary, and then they could mount the charge towards the end. And you're not going to have people like Naeem and Karim Jannat stop the sort of flow of runs at a particular point.
Joy, in your life and your career, you have built and made the careers of many youngsters, and I'm one of them. An opportunity to open, it can perhaps liberate a youngster, right? Saying, just go out there, you have the license, express yourself, as cricketers often say, and he sort of embraced it fully. Miraz.
Absolutely. And don't forget that Miraz was 2014 Under-19 World Cup, Bangladesh captain, regarded as a very high-level prospect, and like a lot of Bangladeshi prospects, because you're so hyped up and the country is so crazy about cricket, it's very difficult to match up to these expectations. So he's had a career, but perhaps not that breakthrough career that we thought. This could be his breakthrough. He's just 25 years old, a lot of cricket ahead of him. This could be his breakthrough.
11 on that batting card for a lower order batter to open the innings on this big stage. It takes a different switch to come on, right? What is it like? What's that change in mentality or psychology or approach?
For a start, it'll be about the questions that the fast bowlers pose if there is swing and seam, which wasn't available in Lahore today. So it makes it a lot easier. When there is, if the conditions are similar to what it were in Lahore, it's rather better to bat opening than in the middle, as you could see, because the ball comes onto the bat, you have extra fielders in the circle, and he made best use of it. But for me, the key aspect of his batting was how he batted post the power play. He found a way to get the tempo right, like a normal top order batter would. It's amazing to know that in 2018 when he opened, I played in the same game. I don't have much memories of it. It was a tight game. But you can see now, given the opportunity, he's made an impact for them. So it bodes well for Bangladesh. For me, what was good to see was how well he rotated spinners. You could see a spinner generally doesn't want to give a wicket to another spinner. It's a mindset thing. But he did it really well. Didn't do anything silly, got the odd boundary, but rotated strike really well in between all of that.
Shanto, what do you say about that? He's sort of wants to own his spot in that middle order. Drop me if you can, he's telling the selectors.
No, he's becoming their go-to guy. And I think what is interesting is, see the last match, his strike rate. His strike rate in the last match was 75, 78, came up to over 80 towards the end, when he really batted. But in the beginning, it was 50 odd. Here, he knew these conditions are totally different. So he got his 100 and 101 balls. So he actually could up the strike rate when they really needed it, come close to 6, give them that kind of a platform. And I think that's important. That means he's playing the position, he's playing the situation rather than just playing the, that he plays only in a particular way. I really like that partnership because it gave stability, and that's the one thing the Bangladesh top order have lacked. They've lacked that stability. They've got it in a match, and if they can replicate it, if Shanto can take this form into the World Cup, this is going to be a fairly decent Bangladesh batting outfit. Remember, Litton still outside. Tamim could join them. Lots more firepower outside.
Another reminder that they've given themselves, if the top order and the middle order can do what they did today, it just unleashes or unshackles Shakib and Mushfiq to just go out there and have fun.
It's not going to happen every day, but when it does happen, it obviously gives you the opportunity, as what we saw Shakib and Mushfiq do, come and play small roles but very important roles in the game. A lot of credit today. You asked me the question, how does Miraz feel as an opener? A lot of credit from Miraz's side should go towards Shanto, because from the outset he batted at a good tempo. You generally see Shanto, if you watched him bat, he's somebody who likes to hit along the ground a lot more. But today, right from the outset, because of the confidence he got from last game, where he probably batted at a slightly lesser tempo, which is what was required in the previous game, he's taken that confidence in today. His first 3 boundaries were aerial shots, which tells me that he's very confident of taking on bowlers. Now, when the batter does that, Mehidy and Miraz on the other end can obviously heave a sigh of relief. If Shanto had come and taken a lot of dot balls and didn't get the boundary, the pressure would have been back on Mehidy, which Shanto didn't allow. So the better 100 in the context of the game is definitely Shanto's, because he constantly kept the pressure on the bowlers and also eased the pressure on a Mehidy Hasan.
If a new person or a non-cricket lover is watching this game, he or she wouldn't be able to say that Mehidy Hasan Miraz is a lower order batsman. He looks like a proper batter.
He is a proper batter. I mean, the fact that he plays that position for Bangladesh does not mean that, when he plays at Dhaka League, when he plays the leagues in Bangladesh, he plays at a higher point than that. He's definitely not a lower. He was a batting all-rounder to start with. So perhaps now his bowling has taken precedence, but he is a proper batter, and you can see that by it. I was just thinking of one more thing, which is that Shanto, if you're from Bengal, Shanto actually means quiet and gentle, and he was anything but quiet and gentle today, because normally last innings was quiet and gentle and holding everything. This innings was in the air, and exactly what he did gave the opportunity for Mehidy Hasan to play it in his own speed.
On Miraj, can it be looked at as a one-off by people on the outside, or can this be a career-changing phase? Can he look at his own career and say, listen, I might want to do this more regularly? Why should it be a one-off?
I think he'll develop into a quality all-rounder. He probably is in line to take over what Shakib has been doing for some point of time, start batting at number 5 and produce those performances. For me, the biggest skill of Mehidy Hassan Miraz is not his batting credentials or his bowling credentials. It's his ability to handle pressure, and I saw that in the last game of the tri-series in the bilateral that India played against Bangladesh. He stood between India and victory and made sure Bangladesh got over the line. And for me, that says a lot about the man, because it is not a one-off innings for him. He's consistently produced small little cameos when required. He got a 70 odd that game. So it tells me here is a man who is able to handle pressure. And if you can do it against India, and India is a big opponent for them, because not only being a neighbor in terms of being close proximity wise, but it was also how much he handled pressure in that game. 1-1 going into the third game, everything on the line. He stood between India and victory, and that I enjoy the most about.
Now, given that the Asia Cup is being looked at as a preparatory tournament for the World Cup, have Bangladesh shown the world how to bat against Afghanistan? Just play the spinners out, don't take risks against Rashid, and then you can take on the rest of them, because there's not much quality there, to be honest.
True, it's true, but also that would depend on the kind of pitches you get. I mean, this Lahore pitch is, if even fast bowlers would look at it and cry, the spinners would also, I mean, no bowler is going to be happy seeing this pitch. So, yes, definitely. And there is a template out there, and I think that's a template that's fairly known in international cricket, that 50 overs. And what, it's a very interesting thing DK was saying, that towards the end, while we were watching the game, 44th, 45th over, you're seeing misfields. They were out of gas. They are not used to 50 over cricket, because this is not a format they play very often. And remember, all the leagues around the world are all 20 over leagues. All their guys have played 20 over cricket. 50 over is not something they do on a regular basis. So they looked a tired team, and maybe they wouldn't have been so tired had they got a few wickets up front, had they been on top, because then the adrenaline pushes you up. But here you're getting smashed, everyone's coming and hitting you out of the ground. Their shoulders drooped a bit early, and they are a young international side. That can happen once in a while.
Should they have brought Rashid on much earlier when they got those 2 quick wickets? Did they miss a trick there?
Because of their lack of options at the death, and they have seen what Rashid has done for Gujarat Titans in holding up an end at the start and then bowling a little later in the innings, I think Hasmatullah Shahidi decided that, okay, let me try and use him as an option at the death end of the innings. And you can see, hence he bowled a lot lesser through the middle. You got to understand, if you want to create an impact as a spinner in ODI cricket, you got to be able to turn the ball. And I think that is one area where a lot of spinners across the world have, for lack of a better word, the skill has reduced in that sense. When we spoke about Muralidharan and Shane Warne, they could turn a ball. So that skill is obviously not Rashid Khan's strength. Rashid Khan's strength is the variation he has. He only turns it a wee bit, but his consistency in length is what makes him really special. And the mystery about which way it is turning, people don't know. So, and these kind of pitches where there is very little turn on offer, he becomes very gettable, especially at the back end of the innings. And you saw that he went for a run rate of over 6 runs per over, and you can see why that's happening.
I know that a lot of fans are not glued to their TVs and watching the action ball by ball. They often come and watch Cricbuzz live instead, because this is where they get a complete wrap-up of all that happened in the innings. But if someone were to just look at the scorecard and say, Rashid Khan, 10 overs, 66 after bowling 1 maiden, can the answer be in one sentence, because this is an ODI?
Yes. In many ways, you're absolutely right. In the first 5, he went for almost just 20. And in the next 5, he's gone close to 10 runs and over. It tells you that when batters decide to take you on a flat pitch, which very little turn, it is okay. You got to understand, even when he bowls in the IPL, a lot of games he goes for 4 overs, 28, 30, which is still 7.5. And if they do that in the back end of an inning in ODI cricket, that will get you over 60 pretty easily. And that's what you saw. And that is where finger spinners are so much more useful, because if you see the Afghanistan bowling attack and you can see who all have bowled, you can see the most successful bowler, even though the wickets column is a 0, you can see the guy who's bowled the most economical is Mohammad Nabi, because the finger spinner has a lot more control on his length compared to a wrist spinner.
Therefore, is Rashid half the threat in ODIs as he is in T20s, or that'd be unfair?
Half maybe this thing. Look, he's a class international act, but absolutely, the more time that you have to play him out and don't need to attack him that hard and have surfaces like this, you're going to see Rashid struggle, and he can't. Again, if Rashid got a couple of wickets, it's again in the players' heads. He's coming into bowl, Rashid, big international name. Things can change. So circumstances also play a large part. They played him out in the beginning. Remember, they gave him that respect in the beginning. But when they came towards the end, they had wickets in hand. They have experienced seasoned batsmen. They went after him.
Also, that at the IPL, he does have a better support cast around him. I mean, not so much the case here in Afghanistan, isn't it? Because he bowls with much better bowlers.
The quality of bowlers overall in a bowling lineup in any franchisee team will always be better because you're getting the cream de la cream. Whereas in Afghanistan, the quality overall is not comparable to what you would get in a franchisee-based team, which is understandable. But more importantly, the format change. In T20 overs, people are looking to go after him. Whereas in ODIs, they're happy to sit back and just take the single, which makes it tougher on him to produce a wicket.
Do you like the look of Noor Ahmed? Should he be considered in the future? Because this bowling attack doesn't seem to have the edge to trouble any other batting lineup.
Their big problem is not, they've already playing 3 spinners who are bowling 30 overs.
Yeah.
Okay. For them to play 4 spinners is going to be a difficult proposition in international cricket because when surfaces like this, surfaces change, you need to have at least 20 overs of fast bowling available to you. If you get Noor Ahmed in place of another fast bowler, who will you replace? Fazal Haq Farooqi? You can replace Gulbadan Naeem or Karim Jannat, one of them. But then you're losing a batting option as well. If 3 spinners can't do it, I'm not sure whether a 4th spinner would help. And again, what have you seen of Noor Ahmed? Noor Ahmed has done all his great performances and he's been really promising as a young kid in T20 cricket again. Again, is he a proven 50-over commodity? And I think this is the problem that the situation that you have, that this is a team. Afghanistan has a decent one-day international record, but exactly because of what DK said, they have a good international record because they've won a lot against associate countries in matches like that. They haven't won that much one-day international cricket against test-playing nations. They are not used to the format. This is not their favorite format. So if you had to choose where do you want to play Bangladesh 20-over cricket or Afghanistan, you would definitely choose 50-over cricket.
We do have to look ahead to the second innings. Massive total to chase for Afghanistan. However, while we were watching, we received the unfortunate news of the passing away of Zimbabwe cricket star Heat Streak. Dinesh Karthik here has known Heat Streak well. You worked with him closely at Kolkata Knight Riders. I'm sure you have memories with him.
Absolutely. I think I've spent quite a bit of time with him in Gujarat Lions and KKR. A lovely man, very soft-spoken, and coming from Zimbabwe, I've played against him as well. So I know him for a long time in that sense, and it is very sad on the family's part. I hope things settle down. It's never easy to cope with the loss, and my thoughts and prayers with the family. As a cricketer, we all know how much he achieved for Zimbabwe and for how long he was the mainstay of Zimbabwe's bowling attack. In many ways, went on to become an all-rounder with his batting credentials. But beyond all that, he was a lovely guy off the field, and I hope and pray that may his soul rest in peace.
Yes, he passed away at the age of 49, was diagnosed with stage 4 liver cancer. His credentials speak for himself, Joy. Zimbabwe cricket's history, especially their golden generation, is unimaginable without Heat Streak.
Absolutely. That 2000 to 2006-07, him, Blignott, and the Flower Brothers, they had they had a unit which was really competitive. They've beaten India in a World Cup in '99. They had that ability in those days, and Zimbabwe would never roll over and die. And Streak was their standout performer. And exactly as he said, started off as a fast bowler, but by the end of it, wickets, 2,000 runs, 200 wickets in one-day internationals, it's not a joke. So it's somebody who's played a really high quality of cricket, played lot of good county cricket as well, and then was, around the world as a coach. Because as you know, Zimbabwe cricket, the pickings are very slim. There's not much there. So he's been around the world, been to a lot of countries, did a lot of good work with a lot of young cricketers, but really sad to hear what happened.
Yes, messages, reactions coming in from across the world. Sachin Tendulkar tweeted as well. Sachin, of course, played against Heat Streak. Here's that message from the master, Sachin Tendulkar. Talks about how he was a big, muscular, strong guy with agility and deceptive bowling. Combined with his fielding prowess, were truly remarkable. Rest in peace, Heath, said Sachin Tendulkar. He does leave a certain legacy for young Zimbabwe cricketers to follow. He's coached across the world, worked at the NCA as well. So I'm sure there are a lot of young cricketers' careers that he would have touched.
You have to say yes to that because not only has he left a legacy as a player, but I think he's coached in various parts of the world and he's put his footprint in NCA as well, which is good to know. I remember as an Indian team, we were all invited to his game farm in Zimbabwe when we had gone, and it's a lovely farm, and he's got a lot of wild animals, and it was a lovely house, and To have known the man, you would know that he had a clean heart and he had good things to say about a lot of Zimbabwe cricket, and how also in its decline he chose to stay there and spend a lot of his time there.
Our thoughts with the Streak family. Let's now look ahead to the second innings. 335 to chase for Afghanistan, and the two men that can make it possible are their openers. Let's talk about Mr. Zadran first. Ibrahim Zadran, still very new to international cricket. But
17 matches, but what a performance, how he's going, and it's absolutely been in spectacular form. And I think he is the great new prospect, because what they need exactly is that they've always felt, especially, let me for a moment park aside 50 over cricket and say even in 20 over cricket, what they needed was a little bit more batting to go with their bowling. They have a very decent 20 over bowling side, but they haven't had the batting. They hadn't had consistency. Cricbuzz has been a bit of a lone ranger in that team, and if he's got somebody like Zadran supporting him, that makes a huge difference. And I think he's a class player, and that if they are the key for Afghanistan. If they get the runs up front, they are the ones who can make a difference.
Rahmanullah Gurbaz, they often refer to him as Mr. Boom or Bust. Now, he scored a big 100 against this very opposition. In his last 5 innings, he's got a 145 against this opposition, as well as a 151 against Pakistan. But this is an issue. DK, how does a cricketer go about not being so erratic?
He's a high-risk player. He takes big risks, very leg-side dominant, loves to play the sweep even to the fast bowlers. He is somebody who is going to have these kind of scores because he's always willing to take on the game and play aggressive shots right at the top of his innings. When he gets going, he can obviously put any attack to sword, but his problem will always be consistency because of his choice of shots. He is someone that Afghanistan will rely on to give good starts, but if they're dependent on him to make the big scores, then they will be under trouble. I think Ibrahim Zadran is more the guy that they will look to see if he can bat for a longer period of time with Rahmanullah Gurbaz supporting him and making sure that they're off to a flyer. Rahmat Shah is a very interesting name at 3. He's not had a great run of form. Rahmat Shah and Najibullah are two pure batters who needs to find a way to do well for Afghanistan because their batting depends a lot on these two players. Yes, they have Hashmatullah Shahidi, a left-hander who is obviously steady, but a lot of the batting will depend on Najibullah and Rahmat Shah to see through those middle overs, because what they do have is firepower at the back end with Nabi, Gulabdin, Karim Jannat and Rashid Khan.
Who bats at number 10, so it's a long batting lineup.
He does, and you got to remember Mujibur Rahman got a 50 against Pakistan in the last game. So they have quite a bit of batting to come, but through the middle they need to find a way to stay the course so that they have a chance at the back end of this game.
There's something about Rahmanullah Gurbaz that gets everyone to sit up and take notice. Jonathan Trott, the head coach of Afghanistan, reckons that he sometimes rushes it a bit much, and this is what he says. The longer Gurbaz bats for us, the more chances we have of winning. Clearly, he has the ingredients to be explosive, but he's just got to use it at the right time.
This is something that people say, and I don't buy it, and I'll tell you why. Why is he so explosive? Because he takes chances and hits balls that other people don't hit. If you take chances, you're bound to get out more often as well. So he is a high risk, high reward player. And I think the point is that if you change him totally, you will take away his explosiveness as well. And Saurav Ganguly used to say one very interesting thing. He told me once, he said, I always have 1 or 2 guys on my side who are not the reliable guys because you can't depend on them. But the day they get going, they'll win a match for you. So, they're match winners. So Gurbaz is that kind of player. The day he gets going, he can win a match for you. But he's not going to get going every day because he scores at that rate because he takes those kind of chances.
And maybe he'll make a match out of this. So let the Maverick be. Let Rahmanullah Gurbaz bat the way he wants to. Who knows? He might be able to script a famous win for his team. What about the Bangladesh bowling plan? Will Mehidy Miraz come out to bat? Because he retired hurt with a cramp on his left hand. DK, what does experience tell you about these things? Do you expect him to come back and play?
I just hope for the Bangladeshi supporters he comes out there because he is not only a good bowler, but he's a very tactically sound player who will definitely be helping Shakib Al Hasan. And he's got that bit of dogfight in him, which they will require if the game goes deep, because he's one of those guys who's very clever with his bowling, will always tease you with the odd ball here and there, but also knows when the team is under the pump, he's the kind of guy that they go back to because he's got a lot of control, but more importantly, he's got a very clever mind.
It'll be relatively cooler now in the second session under lights. Does it get easier to bat in Lahore?
it'll be as easy as it was in the afternoon. I can promise. I don't know how much easier it can get.
Easier to run, I suppose.
It's easier to feel, definitely.
Yes, that's for sure. He's absolutely bang on there, Joy.
We can expect Taskin Ahmed and Shoriful Islam to just come out and go all guns blazing, fifth gear.
Yeah, but I think he said something very important. Again, you're talking about Mehidy Hasan, Miraz, that it's not so much just the bowling. It's the kind of guy where you've got hit for 15, 20 in an over, and he's the kind of guy who will go to the bowler, talk to him quickly, even if the captain's on the other end, manage to calm him down. Have guys out there who know how to win. Taking any team across the board against India is not an easy thing. And he did it. So that temperament is so important in the field, because your captain can't cover all 11 players. Yeah. You need 2-3 other guys in the field who are almost like semi-captains out there, calming people down, going out there, quickly running, giving a bit of advice. They're very useful to a team. And Mehidy Hasan fills that category. He's a perfect player in that category.
Remember, this is the group of death. Bangladesh need to win, and they need to win big. Afghanistan do have one game after this one, so it's a very, very interestingly poised points table. A huge total to chase for Afghanistan, who are playing their first game. Bangladesh need to cover up for that for the net run rate, which is minus 0.951. A very, very interesting second innings coming up. But before I say goodbye, gentlemen, predictions, first 10 overs.
53 for 2.
I'm actually going to go 70. I want to go wicket 70.
I'm going to say 60 for 1. Match on.
On.
We'll be back on with Cricbuzz Combox at the 15 over mark. Do join us then. Enjoy the game and make sure you come back and watch Cricbuzz live at the end of the match. Bye for now.